Thank you so much. So, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we will be talking about the intersection of hardware and software with Tractive. So, first of all, I will be the host, and this is me, and a little bit about my background. My name is Andrea Lopez, and I'm the Junior Growth Marketing Manager at Product People. I've been working for more than 2 years in marketing, and prior to that, I worked 1 year in business development, and I've been both in B2B and B2C. And what do we do? As I said, I'm Product People. What do we exactly do at Product People? So at Product People, our mission is to help companies discover and deliver great products faster. And we also empower our product management community to share their knowledge generously, and whilst we do the glamorous hands-on work of a product manager slash owner. And we do that on an interim or fractional basis. That means usually in missions from 3 to 12 months. And we love onboarding fast, aligning teams, and delivering outcomes. So first of all, to break a little bit the ice, we have a couple questions. Feel free to leave the answers to these questions on your chat. And the first question is, have you worked on products that have a hardware component? Answer A is currently working on one. Answer B, I have worked in the past. And answer C, never work on one. And for the second question, is how do you see the PM function in a pure software product versus in a product with hardware? Option A is it's the same job. Option B, it's the same with some nuances. And option C, it's significantly different. And option D, it's a different job. So if you want to let us know on the chat, that would be great. Let's see. Okay, so one of the answers is for number one, option B, have worked in the past. So we have people on the call with certain experience on the matter today. And for the second question is option C, that's it's significantly different. So let's see how our host today tackle this topic. And these are our hosts, Alexander and Diogo. They're both part of Tractive. Alexander is the Engagement Product Manager Lead, and Diogo is the VP of Product Management and will be giving the talk today. And from here, I will stop sharing my screen and I will hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction. I hope whoever has worked with hardware product before can share their perspective maybe towards the end, and that they don't disagree too much with us. With that said, I'll kick this off by introducing myself and then allowing Alex to introduce him. So my name is Diogo. I'm originally from Brazil. I've been living in Austria for 5 years now. I joined Tractive a little bit over a year ago as VP of product. And whenever I have a chance to talk, I like to talk about my objectives because I think this is a great way to know people, right? So I'm an avid runner, and I have this goal of running a marathon. I'm halfway there, literally. I love building Legos, and I have a backlog of Legos to build, so 10% there. I really enjoy cooking Italian food, and my long-term vision is to become as good of a cook and as an Italian nonna. I enjoy spending time with my family, And finally, I actually went to film school. So I charted a very non-linear path into product management, and I still love photography very much.
Well, then it's me, Alex. Diogo and me, we're actually sitting quite close to each other, and we are sharing a microphone. So don't be confused if we are like if I'm staring up on Diogo's screen or vice versa. I'm in Diogo's team and leading there the sub team, which is called like engagement, which is basically for everything or product managers in there. We are working on features within the app, bluntly put. And I'm with Tractive since 4.5 years now. Started out there as a product manager for like a part of the app, which was back then called activity tracking. You can compare this to Garmin active minutes tracking, something like this. And then slowly grew into more and more functions here of the app before we made a team out of it, which today is called the engagement team, because we orient towards engagement metrics when developing new features in the app. I also took the freedom here to put a couple of pictures that represent me and what I'm about, not particular objectives that Diogo forwarded, but just me as a person and my hobbies. I'm a huge Formula One fan, which you can see on the top right. Me and my family there on the Spielberg track in Austria. Also, I'm a passionate hobby DJ, which you can see there in the middle down there from some of the last occasions I played. And generally, I'm a huge fan of traveling, being it with my fiance on the lower right-hand corner you see there. Went quite some places last year, or going on the yearly camping trip there with my friends in the middle. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
All right, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about Tractive. So I want to start with the company's mission, right? Because I think that this really sums up very nicely what we're trying to accomplish here. We believe that there's a lot of value in really strengthening the bond between pets and humans. We do this through technology and innovation, and we want to achieve is healthier, longer, and safer life together. There's just a ton of research that shows that people who have pets are less lonely. Even having pets is good for our mental health. It's also good for physical health, as many studies show. And well, they're very cute, right? So I think all in all, win-win situation for sure. And the company was founded 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years ago now, when one of the founders came across this statistic that a little bit over a third of pet owners lost their cat or dog at least once. If you've been through this, it's a very traumatic experience because pets are family members for, I think, many people. And that's also hundreds of millions of pets worldwide, which means that the opportunity, right, to solve this problem is also quite big. And throughout these years, we grew. If you care about, venture capital and startup, tech industry terminology, we are a scale up now. We have a little bit over 250 team members now. We are based in Linz, Austria, and but we have people from all over the world. I think last time I checked, we had team members from over 40 countries working with us. So that's really amazing to have so many diverse perspectives. We have 1 million active subscriptions, really pet owners in 180 different countries across the globe trust us. And what's interesting is that our application was downloaded more than that, right? Because also people really use it to share with family, with friends, other people who help take care of their pets. And from a product perspective, we have 2 core value propositions, and I would, before going into that, I would love to share what's the product lineup, because ultimately this is a hardware and software company, right? So our current lineup, we have Tractive Cat Mini, which is the lightest GPS-enabled cat tracker in the market. Then we have Tractive Dog 4, which is the best-selling GPS tracker for dogs on the planet. And we also recently introduced Tractive Dog XL, which is larger device for larger dogs with much longer battery life. And there are two main value propositions for us, right? One, and this is also how we somehow divide our product team. When we think in terms of ownership for product managers, one of them is wellness and health. This is the space in which we are pushing very hard in terms of innovation. And this is a great customer story. We have something that is called now the wellness score. If you use, I don't know, the Whoop band or the Oura Ring, Fitbit, many of these products, they offer you a score that's representative of how fit you are or how well you are doing. And we do the same through combination of activity data and sleep data. And what we do is we, on a daily basis, we provide an updated score if your pet is wearing the tracker enough throughout the day. And this particular customer wrote us a very nice message saying that a dip in the wellness score meant that their cat was able to be diagnosed. They went through some procedure, and they could also not only get this early warning that saved this cat's life, but also that they could see the recovery of the cat, through these metrics as well, which is really great. And the core value proposition for the app, how the company started 10 years ago, right, is to ensure that your pets are safe and that you know where they are. And when we spoke to customers, we really saw that for certain breeds, like there are scent hounds or hunting dogs, even when they are well trained, they tend to escape from their owners just because they're chasing something. And this particular customer mentioned that they were notified that their dog really left what we call a safe zone, and they were able to really quickly get the dog back. So I think that these two stories really encompass what we are trying to do here and the value that we ultimately generate for customers. Moving on, speaking about hardware and software, right? For me personally, the decision to join the company was because the most interesting, innovative companies out there, they're doing both hardware and software, right? DJI is producing amazing drones, and the software experience, if you ever flew a drone, if you ever used a drone, is really a big part of why they're so successful. Tesla, of course, they brand themselves as a tech company, not a car company, and the software optimization allows their vehicles to be much more efficient. And up until yesterday, there was a picture of an iPhone here to talk about Apple, but I just decided to update it today. And I think Apple is just probably the biggest example of how you can combine hardware and software to create amazing experiences. And I'm very curious to see where Vision Pro and spatial computing, as was put yesterday, is going. So this really got me excited. And there's a quote that Steve Jobs mentioned when he announced the first iPhone. It's actually from this computer scientist called Alan Kay, who said, people who are really serious about software should make their own hardware. So you really control the entire ecosystem, the whole experience, right? And I think that this is something that really gets us very excited here at Tractive as well. I would love to share how this affects product leadership, right? Because Alex is here and he will share with you what does this mean on a more tactical, operational role. But for me as a product leader, this really has other repercussions or repercussions at different levels. So the first thing is the business model, right? If we were a purely hardware company, we would just make sure that we have the right price for our products, we would market and sell our products and then call it a day. But since we also have the software component that allows our users to interact with the hardware and to get value out of it, right? And we need to maintain this infrastructure on which this software is run. Then a subscription business model for us was really almost a necessity. So we would have that recurring revenue that would allow us to grow sustainably. The second topic is product strategy and also product vision for that matter, because usually when you think about product vision, you're thinking in, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 years out, right? And with a hardware company, you're really thinking much more along the lines of 10, 12, 15 years out. So that changes a lot the calculations and what you can accomplish. And same thing for the strategy, right? In terms of software, you're thinking maybe 2 years out, maybe even 1.5 years, because changes are happening much more often, and you're much more capable to respond to different things. But when we talk about hardware, then we also need a product strategy that takes a longer timeline into account, because product development is happening on a very different timeline as well, right? And Alex is going to go deeper into this, but in general, the hardware development requires deep, specific technical expertise, and it's a bit less agile, right? We still do project management, but it's a lot more on the waterfall side, because there are certain things that once you're committed to, it's either unfeasible to change or very costly, right? And also we are here running through this exercise of almost futurology, because we need to make decisions now for a product that will be released probably 2 years down the line, maybe 1.5 years down the line, best case scenario. And that is going to be in the market for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, right? Because we want to support our customers for a long time. So calculations on, should we have 5G on the next generation device? Should we bet on ultra wideband or LoRa, right? So all those things make product development very different in this sense. And we need to align here different ways of working and different teams. And that means also, of course, different organizational design is needed in order to really have that all those different expertises and to be able to pull all those strings together. So as a product leader, I can definitely say that my role is very different from my director role at a mobile app company that I worked with before. All right, then Alex is going to talk to you about development processes and how all this somehow connects into practice and some of the challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. With this, it's my pleasure to start with this like overview on how we go on how we tackle development processes, especially from someone who would be working in my team, like as an engagement product manager. And then I want to share with you some opportunities and also challenges that you face as a product manager when you basically consider this entire ecosystem. I'm starting in here with briefly outlining what the ecosystem, so to say, is all about. We saw bits of it before, but to have the complete overview, we have on the very left-hand side, where we start here with our hardware, the GPS trackers that we sell as a company, which are the gateway for a customer to come into our ecosystem. On this like hardware, there is the firmware running, right, which is the tracker's operating system, which we also develop in-house, and basically gives the trackers its instructions and make sure that the tracker's information is sent to our backend, which we have in this last bucket here that is over at software, that we consider our apps, so the end user facing mobile apps, and the backend that provides the data for it. And the first thing I want to highlight with these things, and that Diogo briefly touched on before, is the different development cycles, because this fact really determines a lot of how we actually, as product manager, need to then tackle the development process of being it new features and whatever. For the hardware, as Diogo touched on, we have here years, multiples typically, from starting thinking about the new product until we launched it in the market. When it comes to firmware development, we are much closer, what many of us or many of you maybe already know from general software development. Here we have, depending on the time of year, weeks or a month before we roll out new firmware to customers here. And on the software side, we very traditionally have here sprints that we follow. In our concrete case, we are at the moment following 3-week development cycles, as you can also see here on the next slide, where I would already like to get a bit more concrete. Also introducing here our fictional product manager. Could be someone from my team, Mario, engagement product manager, owning a value stream in there. And what Mario is mainly working with and who is working together with are people from this like software area that I outlined before. This means Mario is working in a cross-functional team with mobile developers, backend developers, also including designers and QA professionals, to release in this 3-week sprints new value to the users. And this is for many of these value items that we release. Mobile and backend adjustments are in 90% of cases things that we touch on. That's where, for example, you don't directly see here that the firmware professional is included in here. How we interact with those in a couple of slides. Here, just to emphasize on this really briefly, yes, we are currently running 3-week sprints actually, and we have very typically here the product backlog with a sprint backlog filling up, and then after 3 weeks we have the completed product or a new iteration to ship. And how we steer this process and also set priorities. There we put OKRs in the framework. Generally, we align across the whole company with the OKR framework, and also this is defining priorities in our development backlog and what we try to tackle next. And Mario, who is like engaging with his cross-functional team in this 3-week sprints, and as I said, like you can say 90% the professionals in this cross-functional team handle updates. But whenever then there is like a new improvement that Mario's team would like to do that requires then also changes to our tracker firmware. This happens roughly like I described here in the following case. So there is the firmware team, which is, and the arrows there at the bottom are really representing these firmware cycles, which are a bit longer than the regular software development cycles we have. And there's a dedicated firmware team, right? When we as engagement team don't at the moment have a specific request to them, they are developing new firmware for upcoming hardware, trying to improve the general firmware performance and so on, right? And then there are sometimes requests from engagement product managers like Mario here, who thinks that for the wellness value stream that he's owning, it would be a great idea to improve the sleep detection UI and algorithm for within the upcoming sprints. And what Mario needs to do here is really to go ahead and ask for support from this particular team, meaning a couple of sprints ahead that Mario should already know that there will be some support required here from this firmware team. And in this case, yeah, there needs to be a new algorithm supported by the firmware. And in the best cases, in this example here, within the next firmware sprint, this is then tackled and released with the next firmware release, so that the app and the backend can then connect to the new algorithm and utilize the outcome. That's really here a relationship of asking, just making sure that you're asking in advance for support of this team and being in exchange with this team throughout the development. I also would like to emphasize here how this is like different with hardware development, and here the big factor that determines this interaction here is the way longer development cycle. And as Diogo mentioned before, the fact that this is more like traditional project management and waterfallish, where whenever there is a new tracker generation planned, really Mario or other engagement product managers really need to be attentive here and make sure that whenever there is the time for conceptualization and evaluating new product capabilities, that there is like a use case pitch for maybe including a new model in the new tracker, right? So in this particular case, I picked Mario, who thinks that for the wellness health value proposition that he's owning, it would be great if we can include a heart rate monitoring to our future product, because further down the road, we could maybe then better track even the sleep duration or the sleep interruptions of a pet. And in order for us to make sure that the hardware team can understand whether this is worth considering and so on, there is like, as in typical project management, you do feasibility checks, make business cases and so on, right? You really try to map out that it is worth putting this in and putting in the effort, because again, as Diogo mentioned, if you have that in the product, you need to support it then for a very long time. Most likely it comes with additional costs and so on, and you make sure that the business case, the viability and so on is really given. And again, that's another team that Mario in this case would be interacting with. That is the high-level outline of how the interaction here with these different parts of the ecosystem work for like this product manager. And now to at the end, I would like to highlight how this creates opportunities and challenges for us in product management. Starting here off with this quote from Uncle Ben, Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels. And I would like to give you 3 examples of challenges that this comes with. I go into specific examples on versioning and like challenges that are posed from versioning and backwards compatibility. When it comes to considering edge cases and hardware capabilities, and when actually there is a bug popping up on how you go about finding it, where to fix something within the ecosystem. And I would like to give you 3 brief examples on this based on some customer personas. So I always use Sarah as an example here, a fictional customer. I labeled her a loyal customer, as most of our customers actually are. And she's one that actually bought a tracker long ago from us. This actually on the lower right-hand side is an older hardware from us. And she has a modern phone, right? So she gets all our latest app updates. And what we need to make sure is what Mario needs to make sure, if we stick here with the example of our sleep detection algorithm from before, this tracker would not be able to run this because it's not supporting our latest firmware, or different reasons why this might not be happening. And what we need to make sure as product managers is that we have like a custom implementation then on how the app should react, right, to an hardware that is not supporting what we want to display here. We can then play around with a lot of options here. We can try upselling or show a different UI and so on, right, with the capabilities we have. But it's important to consider it and basically not leave it unhandled. That's for sure one challenge here, to always capture these edge cases that come with already quite some tracker generations that we have out there in the field. Another example that I found interesting, and that's a challenge regarding edge cases, like cases that really rarely occur, and given the capabilities of how the hardware works, we have this feature that Diogo briefly touched on before, like that we call safe zone, where a user practically can on a map draw an area where they want to get notified if a pet leaves it or enters this zone with the tracker on. And the way this works, that this like coordinates of where the zone is stored on the hardware, and as soon as the hardware detects that this is like the pet is going out or inside, then it sends a notification to the mobile app, and the mobile app then tells the customer that, hey, the pet left this zone or entered it. And the customer is of course setting this within the mobile app, and also when deleting it, you delete it from the mobile app, and it's basically gone from within it. And there is then some time that it takes until we update we need to tell the tracker that this zone is now deleted, and this just takes some time. And there's an edge case that can occur here where this is already deleted for the customer on the phone, right? and the tracker still thinks this is active because it didn't receive the update yet. And here it's then about like how to handle this time in between, right? This can be very pragmatic. It's just showing the user that there is it will be deleted shortly, or there can be more sophisticated solutions we put in place to make sure that a user will not be confused at the end of the day by receiving a notification from a safe zone that they actually perceive that they already deleted. Last is like a challenge here for controlling this ecosystem. Here's Sarah again, and this time she has basically the issue that she cannot see their pet's latest location within the app. And when we receive this via customer support, for example, Sarah is complaining, let's say, there can be multiple touch points here for us on where we need to check on this, right? And this is just to illustrate. Of course, there could be the issue that the app or backend is just basically not correctly forwarding or displaying the latest location that it might have already received from the tracker. Or that the firmware running on the tracker didn't properly instruct the tracker to fetch a new position, or that something else went wrong here in forwarding this information to the app, or that at the end of the day, the tracker is just not able to really get the GPS signal because maybe the module is just out of reach of any GPS satellite. And to trace this back or understand why at the end of the day there is no new position drawn at the customer's phone can in some cases be easy if the right tracking and debugging is in place, but there are again a lot of edge cases and so on that can happen for customers in the field, and sometimes this can really go down a rabbit hole. And Diogo put in here the analogy of whack-a-mole because it can really be kind of yeah, maybe we should look at the firmware where the bug is, maybe we should look at the hardware, and it's always like trying to find the right spot to look at. With challenges comes opportunities, and I would like to highlight two before finishing it off. One is there are different paths and different knobs that we can turn to create a great user experience at the end of the day. And from that, actually having a lot of knobs to turn to create competitive advantage, something that you as a company do best, and that is really hard for others to imitate within their product. The different paths to create a great experience. Here we have Sarah, and she's really amazed that this live tracking feature, which is basically if you hit the button in the app that you get very frequent updates on where the pet currently is, basically as in real time. And she's really amazed on how fast this works, and what product manager and teams here in the company do is to touch actually all of these stages, right? Like on the app and the UX side, there are ways to make this like perceived waiting time until this like live tracking mode is on to shorten this. Then there are like many tweaks that can be done to precondition the tracker and make like improvement and smart things in the firmware to make sure that maybe even anticipate when Sarah is starting the app that maybe soon she will start live tracking, and therefore we already fire up the GPS module and bring it in a like higher frequency, a higher sampling rate and so on. So to really be smart on this, and this from the button click really just deliver faster this live tracking experience. Or there could be adjustments for like future tracker generations where there is really a different GPS antenna, or trying to have better quality GPS antenna, different vendors. There is like the chance to have the antenna positioned differently within the tracker, right? To have a better GPS signal and so on. So all of these 3 stages here, there are constant improvements happening to, at the end of the day, deliver a faster live tracking experience for Sarah. And to finish it off with opportunities to creating competitive advantages, I picked one example here that actually really makes Tractive stand out quite far from the competition, which is like Sarah appreciating a great tracking experience worldwide or globally. And here the example is relevant for firmware and hardware optimizations and configuration to actually be able to work with network carriers, right? Like the GPS module, that is the one part of the tracker that fetches and is in contact with the satellites. But then there's also the network LTE module, so to say, that then transmits this to Sarah's phone at the end of the day. And to make this work worldwide, the chips are in the hardware to support this, and the firmware is able to support this in basically every country in the world, is something that requires a lot of tinkering and of ways to figure this out. But once you have that, you have like a great competitive advantage. It's really not easy to imitate, and that actually many competitors struggle to imitate. With this, I hope I could give you like a bit of an overview of like what it looks like for an engagement product manager to engage in this setup, at least here at Tractive, and how we do that, and what actually challenges and opportunities that come with it and that we deal with every day. Thanks a lot, and looking very much forward to questions and inputs right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, now we will move on to the question and answer. Let me share my screen. Here. Okay. Okay, so now it's Q&A time, and while you write your questions on the chat of the different platforms, I will be doing a little bit of more explanation about Power People, so to give you some time to think about it, about what you want to ask. So, as I mentioned before, we are a product management consultancy that is focused on doing the inter-fractional product management work. So we received many questions about what are our most, sorry, use cases, aka when to engage us. The most common situation is as inter-fractional product managers or product leaders. This can be for permanent position covers, like while you're hiring, as it often takes 3 to 9 months per role to complete like the whole hiring process. B, second option is parental leave covers that usually take from 3 to 12 months. And another use case is for important and urgent initiatives, like for example, if you receive funding, drive product discovery or delivery, and if you want to meet a deadline and create a big impact in 3 months, etc. Then our second use case is product coach and consultant. If you want to coach your product management teams, like appraising skills and set up personal development plans. And then if you want to create and streamline processes and or programs. And the third use case is for product discovery. This can be discovering the next impactful initiative or product and running a low or no code pilot or MVP. Then once I mentioned what we do, this is about what we're not doing. And like all great PMs, we define and limit scope. We're an agency specializing in interim product management who serves clients only via in-house employees. So that means that we're not recruiters and we won't source candidates. We're happy to share if you have a role that you're looking for hiring. We're happy to share your role with our community for free, and we can help appraise candidates. We're not a freelance marketplace, which means that all of our team is full-time in our payroll, and they join us after completing our 7-step recruitment process. And we're not a development/design agency because we specialize in interim product management. So here you can see some of our B2C clients, such as Zalando, Tears, Scout24, Back Market, Douglas, and Dipal. Then some our B2B clients like Clean, the World Health Organization, GfK, and Sastrify. Here you can read some of the positive feedback that we've received from our clients. And here you can see some of our stats. Like for example, we've supported 200 cross-functional teams and more than 70 clients from Series A to startups to publicly listed companies. We're around 40 product leaders and product managers in-house and full-time, and 60% of women in the team and 66% in leadership. Here you can watch our picture. And also, if in case anybody's interested, we are hiring. We have different positions open. So if you go to our LinkedIn, you could be able to see our opening post. So now we're good. It's time for the Q&A. Let me check. Okay. So, first question is, in which place are your devices produced?
Maybe Alex can join me, so it's a bit easier on everyone. So our devices are currently manufactured in China, and we do have opportunities or plans to expand manufacturing, but our devices are currently manufactured in China.
Great. And then we have another question asking about the roaming costs around the world, and said roaming costs should be crazy.
Yeah. What I would say to this is that we have really, really great negotiators in the company, and we have deals with many providers here. And of course, as I mentioned, right, having this subscription business model means that we have recurring revenue that can support investing in those kinds of things.
Great, that sounds great. Next question is, who is responsible for pricing Attractive, and how much involvement should product be in it?
So this is mostly on marketing and sales. Of course, how the teams and other teams are involved, right? But ultimately, finding the right price for devices is on marketing and sales. When it comes to subscription pricing, then product team is more involved, because on top of having an engagement team, we also have a growth team that handles subscriptions in addition to other things.
Perfect. Thanks for the explanation. And next question is, how do you run discovery, and how much are each of the teams involved, like hardware, firmware, and software?
Maybe you can talk a little bit about software.
Yeah, sure. Yes, for discovery in software, right, we have different channels in which we collect like generally qualitative customer feedback, but also quantitative customer feedback. On that note, I would emphasize that we have really also a strong team that is supporting us here, which we internally call data team, right, which is very much supporting all product managers with digital analytics, but also like evaluation of customer feedback and in terms of sentiment and AI analysis. And that's those are already two big sources for giving us input on like what's currently out there and where we have opportunities to grow. And then obviously there are the general market trends that we are following, right, like in the industry, but also among competitors. I mean, actually, it's more like the general industry jump, because in terms of competitors, we are typically setting the benchmark for the most part, right? Which is a lucky position to have. And also we are like regularly within the company, different stakeholders are attending fairs and so on, right, where we get really first-hand inputs here. Just as one tiny example of like stakeholders that are giving us input here is like from vet and pet health fairs, right, that directly inform also which items we potentially prioritize for our wellness value proposition.
Yeah, specifically to firmware, right? I think that this is a deeply technical team, right? And in a lot of early discussions, whenever we are trying to solve a particular problem, then we try to get them involved, right? But the product managers in the company, they really have this customer perspective, right? And then the firmware team is getting involved, much more on this side of technical consultancy, if you will, to really help us understand, okay, is this feasible, right? Is this something that the firmware team can influence or support with, or maybe this is just really on the software side?
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for replying. Wait, I think yeah, thank you. Then the next question is, how is your growth team structure?
So here, our growth in general, in general terms, right? It's collaborative work between sales, marketing, and product. So I wouldn't say we have what you would call like a traditional growth team, right? But there's a tremendous amount of collaboration. And in general, the product managers working with growth are really more on the ownership of certain metrics. We really look very, very closely into recurring revenue, into, of course, churn as any other subscription based business. And we also really look into a number of other things on the funnel of creating subscriptions, of acquiring a subscriber, on dunning, and a number of topics here.
Great. Now we have a question from YouTube that says, how do you balance funding between hardware and software needs / features?
Funding? Sorry, I didn't understand.
I think this is how it was.
So basically the investment that we're making?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think this is a very good question. And I think for us, there's no, I would say there's no immediate answer, right? Whenever we are planning a new hardware product generation, we are really considering what's the opportunity, also what are the new technologies that will enable us to improve certain things for customers, whether it's the ability to locate their pets or to provide better insights in terms of wellness and health. So this split, I think it's not really what we have in mind in terms of like hardware versus software, right? These things more or less run independently, I would say. So we really try to, whenever we are creating a new hardware generation or developing firmware, to put the best hardware product out there, right? And then on the software side, we really want to invest here in leveraging what the hardware is capable of together with the firmware team.
Great. Thank you so much. I think next one would be the last question. Joao, if you want to confirm. But the next question is, what is your expected growth in the coming years, specifically in terms of headcount in product?
That's a very good question. So we are now at a size that makes sense to us, right? We grew very fast last year. I think I was informally mentioning to Andrea and João that the company almost doubled in size since I joined. So we need to make sure that we make the best out of this growth. And I think the product team is very well structured, very well positioned now to support the rest of the organization and to bring value to the business and to the customer. So I would say that unless something changes, of course, right, we don't believe that there will be like strong growth in headcount for the product team specifically.
Okay, and I hope that that solves it. And we have, remember that I said that maybe it was the last one. Well, it wasn't the last one. We have another question from YouTube, and is if you need to scale it to appeal to B2B, what would be your thoughts?
Sorry, can you repeat? I did not understand the question.
Yeah, that if you need to scale it to appeal to B2B, what would be your thoughts?
Do you understand? Yeah. So for us, it was always very clear that we are a B2C company, right? So I think that this is, if we were to go into B2B, that would mean completely different product strategy, completely different product vision as well, right? There are many other companies out there who build trackers for animals, right? Whether it's farm animals or things like this, right? For us, this really is not something that makes sense. We are really focused on providing, the best experience for customers out there, and really focus on our mission.
I think that that's understandable. It's a completely different industry, one another. And just double check, I think that was the last question, Joel. Yeah, okay, great. So no more questions for now. And that was everything. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much to listen to the talk. I hope it was really insightful. Me as a pet owner, I really enjoyed it, and it was really interesting to see like this things out there, and seeing a company that truly cares about pet well-being. And well, join us next week again. And that was everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.